on that graphic, you can actually see that Manny Pacquiao is the only fighter in history to become an 8-time world champion in 8 different weight classes. Obviously, before he won his 8th world title in 8 different weight classes, he was a 7-time world champion in 7 different weight classes. So what he's done in the sport is absolutely unprecedented. Now, in my opinion, I think Pacquiao is already a top 10 greatest boxer of all time. But if he was to beat Spence, and going just by his recent form of him beating Adrian Broner, Keith Thurman, and if he was to beat Spence, and if he was to go on from that, I think it's undeniable at that point that he is probably one of the greatest fighters that's ever existed, probably a top 5 pound for pound fighter ever. It sounds ridiculous at this point in time, because obviously this generation doesn't seem to like to give credit to any fighter within this generation. We always look at fighters of yesteryear and consider them way better than fighters of our current generation. But I think it's undeniable that Pacquiao, if he was to win against Errol Spence, I think he would be at his age as well. And what you need to take into account is that he's not in his prime anymore as well. And he's fighting an Errol Spence that is bigger than him in his prime and at the top of his game as well, because his performance against Danny Garcia was incredible. I would actually say that Pacquiao is probably one of the best fighters that I've definitely seen in my generation, and you have to put him up there as one of the greatest fighters of his generation. I know Mayweather actually beat him, but if you look at it legacy wise in terms of what they've accomplished and opponents they fought and all of that, I think it's undeniable that Pacquiao accomplished more than Mayweather did. I mean, what's more impressive to you, going 50-0 or winning 8 world titles in 8 different weight classes against fighters that are routinely bigger than you, stronger than you, and just have an advantage over you in terms of reach and power and everything else? I mean, it's incredible what he's actually managed to do. And this is a fighter that's come up from light flyweight, and a lot of fighters from yesteryear might say stuff like, "Oh, what the hell are you talking about?" Like, nowadays there's more weight classes, so it's easier to accomplish something like that. And that's fair enough. That is that's a good point to actually make, that there is more weight classes, so it's easier to accomplish things like this. But one thing you need to take into account is, out of all the weight classes that Pacquiao has actually dominated, these weight classes, 5 of them were lineal weight classes, where he fought the lineal champion. So he fought the main guy. He didn't just pick up a minor title at the weight class. He fought the dude that was considered lineal. And on top of that, I think 4 of the weight classes were part of the original weight classes of boxing. So obviously 4 of them weren't. 4 of them were new weight classes that have been put in recent years, relatively speaking. But the other 4 were like weight classes that were from the original 8 weight classes in boxing. And he's managed to pick up a title in all of them. And if you take into account the resume that he's amassed as well, the fighters that he's beaten, I think it's clear to see that if Pacquiao beats Spence, in my opinion, he's a top 5 greatest of all time type fighter. I mean, look at this guy's resume. Look at who he's beaten. If he goes on to beat Spence and then he fights Crawford and beats Crawford as well, I literally don't know what to say. I might actually say he's the greatest ever. And it might sound like that might sound a little bit crazy. Like, what the hell am I saying? Like, he's the greatest ever. But if you look at everything that he's accomplished, I mean, who would you put above him? I mean, I know you got the likes of Sugar Ray Robinson, who's accomplished so many great things. You got Sugar Ray Leonard, you got Muhammad Ali, you got all these great fighters. But in terms of just pure boxing accomplishment, in terms of what he's done, I mean, I think it's incredible what he's managed to do with his career. It's something that I've never ever seen before. Not that many fighters have even come close to even accomplishing half of what he's accomplished. Like, if you've accomplished half of what Pacquiao's accomplished, or even 25%, that in itself is probably a Hall of Fame career. But what this guy's done, what he's gone on to become, and what he's gone on to actually do with his career, has just been so incredible that I think it's unprecedented, and it's something incredible. Like, people talk about fighters of their generation, and you got fighters like obviously Mike Tyson. I think Pacquiao's already accomplished more than Mike Tyson. In terms of Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Ali is obviously a cultural hero, and he's accomplished things that are just so incredible. But like, I think an argument can be made that Pacquiao's actually accomplished more than Muhammad Ali. I know it sounds like blasphemy to say something like that, but if you just look at it purely in terms of resume, quality of opposition beaten, how many titles he's won, how many great fighters he's fought, and everything, put everything into account, I think you could make an argument that he has. I don't know if the argument is true, but I think you can make a valid argument that Pacquiao is greater than Ali. In terms of just not as a cultural phenomenon. Obviously Ali is unmatched in terms of that, in terms of popularity and all of that other stuff, but in terms of pure boxing accomplishment, just looking at who's accomplished what, I think you could present a strong argument, and you could present a strong argument at this point in time that Pacquiao might be the greatest pound for pound fighter ever. I mean, it sounds like fallacy to say that, and it sounds disrespectful, but if he beats Spence and if he fights Crawford and beats Crawford, I mean, who could you really put above him? I mean, look at what he's done already. This is on top of the body of work that he's already amassed over all these years. I mean, it's incredible. But what do you think? Who do you think is greater? I think Pacquiao is definitely the greatest pound for pound fighter of this generation. But in terms of I think he's a top 10 pound for pound fighter of ever. But if he beats Spence, I think I might have to put him in my top 5 list. Tell me what you think below. Do you think I'm talking recklessly? Do you think what I'm saying is just fallacy? Tell me what you think below, and who do you think is greater than Pacquiao in this generation? If he was to beat Spence, where would you rank him? Like and subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot more content coming your way. Peace out.